uh, whatever makes you most comfortable. So we'll just kind of get started with that. The class today, and most of my background is in, actually, the majority of my background is either in physical type of mind and body training. The majority of the work was also done in the Chinese martial training. So when I teach, it's a little blend of both Buddhist and Taoist. I try to get a measure of who I'm working with and what we might do in today. But the first few rules that we try to apply, more like guidelines and rules, is that try to make ourselves as comfortable as possible, right? So that we can relax and let go. Second is we try our best to take our time. And probably the third most important thing is let judgment go for a little while. And that's, those three things in themselves is not easy. Simple, but not easy. And today what I thought we would do is a good blend of both mind and body training, some physical training, and a lot of breath work training. A lot of times for most folks, when we're first starting meditation, breath work is a good place to start. It's also, at least in our training, it's the most elementary place to start. It's like reading a book, See Spot Run, or something along those lines. But it's essential. And there's various ways of going around and getting into it. So before we get into some of that part, I want to make sure just cover a couple of things. This may be redundant for some of you, but the breath work is essential in the sense of becoming aware of how it's tied into the rest of the body. There's a lot of musculature that controls how we breathe, right? I mean, you got when you go visit the doc, and well, not even the doc, respiratory therapist, I've done it for years, is they'll take a stethoscope and put it here on the front, one on the side, and then again on the back. All three times we're listening to your lung sounds, right? Is it clear? Is it rattling, right? Is it wisping, right? Things like that. And notice that, all three of those are of the same lung. And then we do it three times on the other side. It gives you an indicator right off the bat that the lungs are multidimensional, and you can have issues in one section that you may not hear in another. So if we have bilateral sounds or posterior sounds and things like that, we would write those down in the clinic. And a lot of the musculature that serves around the body, whether it's the latissimus over here on the sides or the rhomboids, pecs in the front, can also tighten down the ability for the lungs to expand and contract. So we're going to do a few things in the beginning to try to warm up the intercostals and all that kind of good stuff so that they can actually flex with it. It's something that, most people won't think about their breathing until they can't do it, right? Or it becomes a little bit of a problem. For the most part, they'll just assume, just like they will with a car, that if it's running, it's fine. Okay. But it could do a lot better if you were to, adjust the brakes or, things like that. So we're going to do a little bit of that, work on the musculature. The other part is the neurological component. The lungs are tied in through the autonomic nervous system, and sometimes they act as a reflection of who we are in the moment, and other times it can be a handle to who we want to be in a moment. The reflection, part of the reason that they'll monitor breathing during a lie detection test, for example, right, is because every emotion that we have, including lying, is tied into a breath. A breath style is what I call it. You think about when someone gets angry, the first, one of the that strong inhale. Of course, when they're depressed or sad, there's breath styles that go with each emotion that we have. And so sometimes they can be reflective of who we are in that moment. And other times they can also be a handle to guide us to where we would like to be. I'm getting so tired of being stressed out over the spectrum man, right? So, I need to just calm myself down. How do I do that? Right. And we'll discuss those things as we go along. So it's also directly tied into your heart rate. You can't hardly separate them. The only folks that I've ever known that would separate them are my cardiac transplant patients, because they cut those nerves, right? And so, it would take it, but usually the heart rate and the breathing rate will walk hand in hand, like husband and wife, everywhere they go. If one goes up, the other one go up, and they come down in the same way. So we can get a handle of our heart rate through our breath. What I would like to kind of start with here in the beginning is to first try to just connect with the breath a little bit. And we're going to do that with a little physicality, and then we're going to do a little warming up. So whether you're online or here, the first exercise I like to do is a 4-step breath, okay? And with that, part of the reason I like for you to have this exercise is because you can practice it anywhere, in Harris Teeter, going to the parking lot, coming into a building, going out of the bank. Doesn't matter, right? So what you do with this particular exercise is you first start and you learn to breathe in as steady as you can for 4 steps, and then out for 4 steps. Okay? As simple as that is, it can be rather challenging. So if you're at home, walk around the living room, down the hallway. And here, what I'd like for you to do is to stand and let's just walk around the room. And we're going to do this for about 2 minutes. So just walk, breathe in for 4 steps, and then out for 4 steps.
Not time yet. No.
There you go. Try to keep it steady. It's okay to smile a little bit. Try not to, overthink it. About 30 more seconds. Now start making your way back to your origin spot. But don't sit down. Just kind of get to that area, and then we'll stretch out and loosen up. Now, if you need to sit down, it's fine. We'll be doing some exercise here in a moment that you can do seated or standing. Before we do, though, any observations on that particular exercise? Okay. Yes. Yeah, right. Yeah, one of the things is that we have this, you'll happens very often is that you realize that, your inhales are like just a big gasp, right? Oh my gosh, right? What I do after that, right? Having a steady inhale is it takes practice a lot of times. We're going to do a little bit of a neurological reset to help with that, because basically we know the lungs can inflate slowly, but we have gotten ourselves trained to where we just take it all in. The exhale is a little easier to control, to get a handle on it. And that is also one of the number one ways to help bring the heart rate down. Usually if I'm doing stress testing or stuff like that, if I need the patient to slow down a little bit, or I'd like to see their heart rate get into what we call a sinus rhythm, I can say, okay, go ahead and exhale slow for me. And I can watch as they're exhaling slowly, I can see their heart rate begin to match it, right? So they get into a nice little rhythm. Okay, so with that exercise, though, one of the things most people do is they'll find that they are adjusting their gait. They're trying to adjust the pace to which they walk, right? They're inhaling quickly and then holding for 2 or whatever it is. All of a sudden, you become aware that there's some depth to the exercise. But once you get into the habit of it, like if you're walking a good 100 or 200 yards or something, it really kind of helps you stay in your moment. And that's the purpose of the exercise, is to help bring you back to the moment. We're not already in the store and we're not dragging the past with us. All right. So that's one of the ways to kind of just take that with you wherever you are. Now, what we're going to do now is a little physical work to tie the body and mind together. And we're going to do a few wrapping taps. Just spread the arms out. When you turn, let the body tap, or let the arms tap against the body. And you'll hear my hands percuss. Mm-hmm. As long as you're comfortable with it, I like for you to, ooh. Sound effects help. That's it. Turn the body and let it tap. And deepen the breath on both sides. On the inhale. Couple more. Okay, take a little break. All right. Part of the reason that for the tapping, if I had you in the clinic, I'd be charging you $50 to $100 already, because we would, this is part of what we call pulmonary hygiene, right? You'll take respiratory patients and lean them over, and you just percuss the sides and the back for the very reasons I mentioned in the beginning. When we're checking with the stethoscope, we check your sides. So when you're doing this exercise and you deepen the breath, part we're trying to do is stretch out the intercostals in the back and the front, but at the same time, you're percussing, right? And that's, if you're doing it properly, when I go to one side, I'm percussing the posterior aspects of the lung. And then on this side, I'm percussing the lateral aspects. So I'm going from side to side, so that then the lungs are vibrating. Okay, so if I just do it real light, I don't get the vibration. But the vibration, the percussion in it, actually loosens anything. So it's not uncommon to have a little coughing and stuff to happen a little bit later, because if anything that's in there gets cleaned out. And this time of year is good to do it. Okay, fall is this time of year, and with all the pulmonary stuff that's going on, it is good to keep those lungs fresh, clean, and the nasal passages. Now, part of the last thing here is that we like to breathe in through the nose and exhale primarily through the mouth. Inhaling through the nose as much as we can, okay? Because then any air that we breathe in will stay warm We activate the sinuses so that if there's any debris or bacteria, the sinuses can pick it up before it gets into the lungs. If you use your mouth to inhale, you bypass all that. All right, so we want to make sure that we practice good work there. Now, the next exercise we're going to do, we're going to practice standing in our meditation and breath work as much as possible. So I'll be doing, in Chinese, it's called jam zhong. It means stand like a mountain or stand like a tree. And we'll be using that. Now, if you get too fatigued from it, all right, I'll show you, we'll start in a resting standing posture, right? If that becomes a little too much as we move forward, then you can also just sit down and continue following with the exercises, okay? So it's not mandatory to stand, but in the Chinese theory, the way it works is that you always practice standing first if you can. If you're too tired or too sick, then you practice seated. And then if you're too tired or too sick for seated, you get to lay down. But there is no excuse for not practicing, right? So that's still how to take. Now, that's the Taoist version, and the Buddhist version is always seated, right? You'll see with the little cross legs, things like that, right? All right. So what we're going to do is take and spread the feet out about shoulder width. Now, if you're not sure what shoulder width is for you, it's very simple. The Chinese ruler for it is you put your feet together, then you take your heel and put it up near the big toe, lift it up to the big toe, spin it out, and that will put your feet directly underneath your armpits. So you got a yardstick with you wherever you go, okay? Now, if that's not comfortable for you, you can spread them out a little bit. Try to start with them straight ahead, and then the body's mechanics will take over. We'll adjust that as we go along. So what they do here is put one hand on the abdomen, one on the heart. We're going to check our breathing mechanics for just a minute or so, about 90 seconds. And with this, all we want to do is whatever natural pace of a breath is for you, I'd like for you to breathe in. And as you do, the lower abdomen is going to expand like a balloon. And then you'll feel, as it rises through your body, you'll feel it lift up the heart and chest. Then as you exhale, reverse that process. The chest will drop a little bit, and the breath descends, and the abdomen squeezes in. Okay? Let's try that about 7 more times on your own. This exercise is called filling the teacup. Your pelvis and your hips are the bottom of the teacup. Your shoulders are the rim of that cup. Your breath, of course, is the tea. Fill it up. One more time. All right. Any observations with that one? I felt relaxed. Okay. You know, a lot of times one of the things that will happen with this is that some folks will notice that following the mechanics as I described them was difficult, right? Because a lot of people have what we call reverse breathing, that they've gotten themselves wired to where they actually breathe opposite. There's 2 styles of breathing. You have the natural resting breath, which is what we were trying to do there, which stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps slows everything down. It tells that's the mind trying to get a hold of the breath to tell the body we're okay. Okay. But for a lot of people, they're not, even though physically their nervous system is not. And by that, if you go for it, like if you were to leave here and sprint down over to the hospital, for example, when you got there, you would be under what we call stress breathing, right? So so the abdomen actually sinks in as you become stressed or exercising heavy, right? You also see the same thing with pulmonary patients when they put in the cannulas and they're trying to breathe. Okay, except they're really high. They don't even lift their ribs. It's just their shoulders. So for a lot of folks, just getting to what we call a natural resting breath. If you have a dog or a cat, you can watch them. They'll lay down, and when they're resting, you'll see their abdomen in and out, just like we're supposed to. All right, so good for you if you didn't have that. But if you do, one of the ways that you can practice it is just focus on the exhale. And what you do is just lay down on your bed or on the floor and put a book on your belly button, okay? And each time you exhale, try to let it sink for the floor, okay? And then the inhale will naturally take care of itself, all right? And then you exhale and let it sink. Now, for a lot of people who are wired with the sympathetic nervous system, the stress system, right, being turned on all the time, when they first try to relax, it can actually trigger a panic attack or anxiety. All right. So it's not uncommon. Right. Well, and the part of that is because sometimes it will trigger it because the body, the worst thing that the human experience usually recognizes is the unknown. When we don't know something, that causes us a lot of stress. There's a reason that patients hound a provider, hound a doctor after they took a test, whether it's a CAT scan, blood work, doesn't matter. Within 2 or 3 days, it's just driving you crazy. I got to know the results, doc. What are they? Right? Because the unknown is dangerous for us, right? It scares us until we get more comfortable with it. So when our when our sympathetic nervous system is turned on, the stress system, when we try to shut it off, it doesn't know what to do, and it can trigger. If that happens, just walk for a moment. Let yourself. Don't force it. It's okay. It's just trying to realize that you know what you're doing. Okay. So let's go from here to where we were. We had the hands, one on the abdomen. It doesn't matter which one. All right. And just let the hands stack. This time, let the palms turn toward each other. Okay. And from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this way because it's a little easier to follow me on this exercise. Okay. And watch each other so you don't smack each other when we get ready to go. What we're going to do first is take the low hand and breathe in, let it spiral out, and then come down in a half a prayer hand, center yourself. Bring your mind down right with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, first start one high, one low. Okay. Take the low hand, spin it out. And then as it comes down, and breathe in. And then center, exhale, let it come down. And the other one. I'm going. Inhale. You're fine. And that's totally okay. All right. We'll do one more to each side, just for practice sake. Okay. Go ahead and do a couple more. Okay, let's take a little break. What did you observe about that exercise? Better at it with your eyes closed. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And that's totally get it. Yeah. Usually when you close the eyes, you reduce the amount of thinking and you start relying on the feeling. Okay. And that's one of the things we like to try to do as much as can, especially like in the breath walk. When that first exercise we did is try to get in touch with the breathing. And that's what I said, try not to overthink it, right? Get in touch with the breathing and the feeling of breath with the walk rather than trying to think. All right. And because that can interfere with it. All right. So what we're going to do now is get into those intercostals a little bit more. So I want to take and double what is called teacup exercises. Okay. A lot of teacup work, right? So the palms up toward the sky. And what you want to try to do is keep the palms up and not drop your teacups. Okay. So I'm going to bring the hands in, turn them around, reach them back. They're still up. I'm going to bring them up, over, back, and there. Good. In. Spiraling the teacups. Great for the shoulders, elbows, wrists, but also really good for the intercostals and the lungs. Let's do two more. Mm-hmm. One more time. It's always funny to me how my fingers start to go numb with all my shoulder problems, right, over the years. All right. Any observations of that one? Back. Okay, so part of that is going to be, I'm going to do it from a different angle, is that if the mind is locked into what happens is the mind will pay attention to just to the hands, okay? And it's almost impossible to do that way, right? What will happen is that if you watch my body from the side, it's called a dragon body, right? And the hands here, is shoulder flexibility and mobility. Now, when it starts to roll around, particularly right about in here, you'll start to feel it. And you can't just take your hands and roll them back. What you have to do is let the body go back. And then it comes up and forward again. That helps stretch out. Okay. Now, that's also important for the neurology because when we get stressed, the body shuts down this way, right? If a gunshot goes off, it's this, whatever it is, we do this under stress. So opening up the other way helps stimulate the autonomic nervous system again, and it tells us that we're free. It's the mind telling the body gets the sense, okay, we're safe and free. We must be. I would never be here. Right? This is not what we don't do when we're under stress, right? We go just the opposite. So everything that we're doing is both the physicality, mentality, and the actual mechanics of activating the parasympathetic safe nervous system. Okay. So from here, we're going to do a little calming breath. Okay. So what I like for you to do is you're going to just start with the hands right here in front, with the what is called the tight. Imagine as if you're holding a light watermelon. Okay, the arms are the hands are kind of shaped that way, or a loaf of bread. Is a good one as well, right? Now, anytime you get tired, really fatigued, this is where you'll come back to, right? And then if you get too tired of standing, then you can sit and still do this. Okay. So what I'd like for you to do first is get your feet under you and your hips over your ankles, and then keep them over your ankles and bend your knees a notch. Okay. When you bend your knees a notch, then you'll just kind of have this like seated on a bar stool sort of feeling. You can close your eyes for a moment. If that bothers you at all, then just open it up halfway and have a natural breath for yourself, whatever that might be. Put in your mind just at the tip of your nose as the breath comes into your body, and imagine it's almost just so steady and so light. And then when you exhale, whether it's through your nose or your mouth, just let it come out nice and easy. That will lead us into our first exercise, which is called silk breath. And I'd like for you to breathe in, count to 5, exhale, count to 5, with no pause on either end. And we'll do 9 repetitions. I'll lead you through the first one, and the next 8 you'll do independently. So the first thing you do is exhale, then breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Continue. I'll let you know when I'm finished. Return to a natural breath. Check your body just to see how the posture is and balance. You like your balance distributed evenly between your 2 feet. We'll do one more exercise standing, and then we're going to move into a seated postures here in just a minute. Next breath is a regulatory breath. It's one to help us kind of get us set. So what we're going to do is we're going to inhale. And as you breathe in, count to 4. And you'll exhale, counting to 8. Okay. If that becomes a little too much, then you can trim it down to 3 and 6, whatever works for you. Okay. I'm going to guide us through the first one. And then we're going to do 9 repetitions. Okay. So I'd like for you to exhale. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Continue. Return to a natural breath. And be attentive and aware of how your body feels. Very good. Now, just stand up nice and tall. Let your body move around a little bit. Okay. How you feeling so far? Okay. A little blend of both exercise and relaxation, isn't it? Okay. That's good. Any comments? So, it's funny you say it like that, because what you were doing is what I call breath accounting, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to have to pay out this much at the end. Let me try to fill the barrel up. So you're doing this. Right? It's amazing how the mind is sitting there doing these calculations going, wow. No, it's just, it gives you an idea, though, of what can happen. Mm-hmm. Right. Open the clothes up. Right. Yeah. So yeah, been through all of it, right? That's why it's but again, now that becomes one of those things that serves as part of the reflection of who we are, right? And it gives us this ability to go, okay, yeah, this is really challenging. And why is it challenging? My lungs, are there something, do I have, and there are some of my folks who have physical reasons. Maybe they were smokers for 25 years and they only have, their lungs are really tight and really hard and they only have a small capacity, right? Or they're hunched over and they got really bad posture, so they can't get it in. So there's a lot of things that can contribute to it. And if that's something that's a real concern, what you want to do is get yourself to the doc and get yourself a FEV, a spirometry testing is what it's called. So you just go through some breathing tests, right? But for the most part, unless you're asthmatic or something like that, assuming that you have everything else normal, right? Then you're just going, well, I've just got myself wired into it, right? And you're really just like, do I have to be gasping in all the air as if somebody's stealing it, right? I've got to breathe out for 8. I better suck this in deep, right? All the way down. So anyway, that's part of the exercise is trying to become aware of how the mind reflectively is doing this accounting. And you're going, oh my gosh, I can't even breathe without getting in my own way. All right. Yawning, okay, is something else that pops up along the way, especially for those who will find themselves transitioning a little bit from just a little calmer state and things like that. The yawn is absolutely acceptable, right? And it allows you to basically just say, wow, okay, start and relax. All right. So what I'd like for you to do now is go ahead and have a seat. We're going to do one more exercise for today. And I think I'm going to do that seated with you. And our goal for today is, or at least my goal as instructor today, is that you get one exercise that you feel like, wow, okay, I really could practice that one and probably benefit from it. You may not remember them all. I'm going to record this, and so if you decide that you'd like to have it, all you'd have to do is let me know, and I'll be glad to send it to you. Right? Get it. Yeah. Right. The double spirals. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the physicality. Yeah. Well, in my office is just across the hallway in the wellness center. So if you ever going, Tim, what was it that you did, right? Then just stop by the office, knock on the door, and I can take 30 seconds and show you, right? Right. All right. So now this next set of breathing is going to be the last exercise for today. We're going to start. You'll see me either hand posture wise, I'll be in one or two positions. One is this is called a Buddhist palm, okay, where the thumbs lightly touch, and the circle here is right in front of the belly button. Okay. And so it's kind of laying here on the lap, right? The other way is just to open the palms here on your thighs. And part of the reason for the open palms is that it's a physical sign for the body and mind that we are prepared to give whatever it takes, whatever we need, and we're prepared to receive it. Either way, we're going to pretty much put ourselves as a conduit and not predetermine, well, I need this, or I'm going to take that and get this. No. Let all that go and let whatever happens happen. Okay. So from here, we're going to take our time, and it's called equal breathing. And equal breathing, we will usually have two shapes that we'll practice. Today, we're going to do one. It's called the triangular shape, right? So with this exercise, what we will do is we're going to inhale, count to 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. And then, yeah, right. Hey, I can see your mind going, okay. Yeah, right. The accounting and one of them little Chinese ruler things went okay. Yeah, right. It's okay. I'm going to lead us through the first couple, but the idea here is that we're going to do equal breathing in a triangle shape. Inhale 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and then we'll naturally go into the next. Now, we won't do a whole lot of these because, they can be a little stressful in the beginning. But we'll say we're going to do 5 repetitions with it, okay? I'll lead us through the first one. All right. So the first thing we do is just exhale. Then breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold and continue on your own. Let's go ahead and practice a couple more reps. I'd like for you to return to a natural breath. Be aware how your body feels as you exhale. Imagine as if your heart could smile. What would that feel like? The very framework of training our minds and our body begins in the stillness and the quietness and in the breath. Bring the fingertips together in front of your heart. Take a moment and just fill yourself with gratefulness. If it was a light, it'd fill you up, and there's no room for sadness, no room for shame, no room for anger, because you're filled with being grateful. And when you're ready, open the palms out into the world. Well, thank you. Thank you. What did you think about the equal breathing exercise? A little. Uh, Beginning. Mm-hmm. Okay. It, yeah. Mm. And so that would be the one thing, for example, your takeaway for today, for example, is okay, I really would like to be able to slow that down a little bit, thread. Now, in the old days, what they would do, it was most of the exercises uh, that you're referring to is called a hawk's feather, right? And what they would do is they would hold a hawk's feather underneath your nose here, and you would practice breathing in and out for like 20 minutes, and you're not supposed to, the feather shouldn't move, right? Right. And that's that. So, when you're practicing the silk breathing that we did, that 5 count in, 5 count out is a direct exercise to help you find that thin, as if your breath was a thread. Okay. That's what you'll try to just work on. Now, you can practice that as you walk. You can practice that by seated. I showed you several ways that you could do it. But the main thing is just remember that try to get yourself loose and your mind loose and the body loose a little bit, and then work on your breathing. They're tied in. And the thing that I try to really help with the most is that your breath, your mind, and your body can serve. You're working all three when you're working with me, right? Whether you're doing mental accounting. Mm, okay. Yeah. Right, right. Okay, good. Very good. Right, right. I teach this. We do this a lot in the Tai Chi classes. I'll do it in some of the exercises medicine classes. And, just as a general rule, usually we'll practice all the exercises for 9 repetitions, just so that you can get a sense of what it is. If you want to feel the exercise, you take one exercise, you do 9 reps, and then you repeat it 3 times. So 3 sets of 9, like if you're lifting weights, right? But it's not always necessary. Just like lifting weights in that case, you start where you can comfortably without causing yourself undue stress, because it's stressful enough to realize that these reflections are happening, and that you might have some of these opportunities to slow things down, or how our mind is getting involved, right? Uh, Feeling rather than thinking your way through some of the exercises. So anyway, appreciate y'all coming in, and